Hey everyone, this is Jono from Veracity with another video in my video series. This one, we're going to start a kind of mini series in these videos on xAPI 101. Looking at some of the performance of the previous videos, it seems like the xAPI introductory topics get a lot of play, so I figured we would do a multi-video deep dive through some xAPI basics. The first two are just going to be some terminology. We're not going to get into many of the technical aspects of these things, but you know, I realize that when you're talking about xAPI, we'll use a word like statement, for example. And statement is a word. It already means something in the English language. But when we say it in the context of xAPI, we're referring to something very, very specific. So that can cause confusion. So anyway, the first, I think, two videos will be on terminology, and then we'll walk through the parts of an xAPI statement and then some other things, but we'll actually go very slow through each component and build over a series of videos in xAPI 101 series. All right, so the first one on terminology. We're not going to get to all of these, but these are the ones we're going to define for the purpose of this series. Today, we're going to get to the ones that are bold and underlined here. I know it looks strange, why in this order, but they do kind of build on top of one another. So alphabetically here, but will be done in a more logical order as we go through them. All right, let's talk about the first one, the Experience API. And you can see this is the official definition from the spec or from online or from some authoritative source, but we're actually not going to use this one. We're going to do something a little bit more simple. Experience API is simply a data format for learning experience data and a standard way to move that data to an LRS, or really get it from an LRS. And there's a really good list of resources on the Veracity site. Don't worry about writing that down. I'll put it in the description of this video. But that's really what we're talking about when we say Experience API. It's a format for data, and it's a way to move it from system to system. That's about it. Okay, we talk a lot about IRIs in xAPI, Internationalized Resource Identifier. Again, I'm going to scratch this definition, although this is technically the right definition for an IRI. In the context of xAPI, IRIs are the IDs. So when we are creating identifiers for things, when we are, like your social security number is an ID for you, when we are creating IDs for things like courses and lessons and assessments in xAPI, in most cases, but not all, but in most cases, they are IRIs. We'll show you later on in videos what an IRI looks like. All right, JavaScript object notation. It's JSON. It's a lightweight data interchange format, and we bring it up here because it is the way data is represented in the xAPI. It's done with JSON. Again, we'll get into what that looks like in future videos, but when we're talking about JSON, we're talking about sort of the binding of the xAPI data model. All right, getting into some specific stuff about xAPI data. I mentioned this earlier, statement. So in xAPI, a statement is JSON, so that data binding that we talked about before, about a user's interaction with some object. You will often hear this referred to in xAPI 101 as actor, verb, object. I did this. Jono completed History 101, for example. And although that is an okay way to talk about a statement because it does include an actor and a verb and an object, this often is an oversimplification and can cause issues with the understanding of what actually goes into a statement. So yeah, in a nutshell, actor, verb, object are the mandatory parts of a statement, but again, there's a lot more to it that makes xAPI useful. So anyway, important for now is when we say statement, we're talking about data about a user's interaction with an object. It's a particular data model in xAPI that represents that interaction with an object. Actor. So the actor is actually part of a statement. It's part of the thing we just talked about. It's the person or group or system that is performing the action represented in a statement. So this is typically a learner. So in the example I gave before, Jono completed History 101. Jono is the actor. And again, it's not that simple when you actually look at the JSON, which we'll get into later. But anyway, in that case, it's the learner. But there is no requirement that it be the learner. It can be other users. So anyway, it's the actor. It's the person performing the action in a statement. Agent. So sometimes you'll hear actor and agent used interchangeably, and this is not quite right. So an agent is the name of the data type that represents the person or the user, the learner. But agents are not always actors. Actors are always agents. So an agent could be an instructor, for example, that is included in the context of a statement. And in that case, it's not the actor. It's not the person performing the action. It's not Jono completing History 101. It's Jono completing History 101 in Dr. So-and-so's class. And Dr. So-and-so is also an agent, and that's contextual information about the instructor of a statement. So anyway, agent is really just the data type of kind of our users. And again, an actor is an agent. So when you hear those two things used interchangeably, now you know there's a little difference. Again, down the road, when we get into breaking up and looking at a particular statement and all the different parts and what the JSON looks like, we'll talk a little bit more about this and we'll tie these two videos together then. All right, I don't want to get these too long, so I think we're going to go ahead and call it there for today. Next video, we'll get into those remaining terms, and then we'll get into actually looking at some JSON. And, although this will be a bit of slideware at first, eventually we'll get into, showing this stuff for real in an LRS, what it looks like. All right. If you like this video, click the thumbs up and or subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.